in the storied franchise of the Celtics, legend follows legend. From Cousy to Russell to Havlicek to Cowens to Bird and now to Reggie Lewis. And Reggie is finding out it's not easy to follow a legend.
Dynasties aren't meant to last forever. In basketball, the chain of legacy is everything. A torch passed from one generation to the next. For the Boston Celtics, that chain connected Bill Russell to John Havlicek, and John Havlicek to Larry Bird. By the early 1990s, the torch was being passed again, not to a flashy showman, but to a quiet, deadly efficient assassin, the man chosen to lead the Celtics into the new era, a player who even made Michael Jordan nervous. But what happens when that chain is not just dropped, but shattered? This is the story of how the tragic death of one player didn't just end the career, it may have altered the course of the entire NBA. Reggie Lewis was not your typical superstar. In an era of trash talk and big personalities, he was reserved, humble, relentless. Drafted from a small local school, Northeastern University, he was the hometown kid who blossomed into the captain of the Boston Celtics. By 1992, he was an all-star, averaging over 20 points per game, the undisputed future of the franchise. His teammates called him a silent assassin. He didn't need to tell you how good he was. He would just show you. And on March 31st, 1991, he showed Michael Jordan. In a league where no one could stop Jordan, Lewis did. That night, he blocked the greatest player of all time 4 times. Not with brute force, but with timing, length, and intelligence. Jordan, who rarely gave credit to anyone, was stunned. To rattle Michael Jordan was to prove you belonged in a different class. Reggie Lewis had arrived. He was ready to carry the torch, ready to build his own legacy on the hallowed parquet floor. And then, in a single moment, everything changed. During the first quarter, with the world watching, Reggie Lewis stumbled and fell to the floor. No contact, no foul, he just collapsed. The city held its breath. The initial diagnosis was a simple fainting spell, but the truth was far more complex and terrifying. The Celtics assembled a dream team of cardiologists. Their conclusion was a death sentence for his career: focal cardiomyopathy, a structural heart disease that could cause sudden death under physical strain. But then a second opinion offered a sliver of hope. Dr. Gilbert Mudge, a respected cardiologist, diagnosed a much less severe condition called neurocardiogenic syncope, a treatable nerve issue that caused fainting. One group of doctors told him he'd die if he ever played again. Another told him he could return. Caught in the middle was a 27-year-old man desperate to save his life's work. While lightly shooting hoops at a university gym, under the supervision of Dr. Mudge and planning his comeback, Reggie Lewis collapsed again. This time, he didn't get up. He was pronounced dead at the age of 27. The official cause, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a deadly heart defect. The controversy over his diagnosis and the whispers reported by the Wall Street Journal about potential past cocaine use, a claim his family vehemently denied, and for which the autopsy found no evidence, would linger for years. But the result was the same. The torch had been extinguished. The death of a star is always a tragedy, but in Boston, it was a cataclysm. Teammate Dee Brown said it best. And what few understood at the time was that the tragedy on the court would trigger a financial disaster off of it. Because Lewis had a guaranteed contract, his salary remained on the Celtics' books for years, eating up their salary cap space. The Celtics requested an exemption, a common courtesy in such tragic circumstances. But the other NBA owners, tired of decades of Boston dominance, voted no. The Celtics were trapped. They couldn't sign free agents, they couldn't rebuild. Reggie's death didn't just leave an emotional void, it left a financial black hole. And this is where history begins to change. What if Reggie Lewis lives? A healthy Lewis keeps the Celtics a competitive 50-win team. They are a legitimate threat in the East. They, not the Knicks, could have been the primary rivals to Jordan's Bulls. And when Jordan retired in 1993 to play baseball, the NBA title was wide open for 2 years. Could a Celtics team led by a prime Reggie Lewis have beaten the Rockets to claim a championship in '94 or '95? It's entirely possible. But the biggest change is the one that echoes decades later. A competitive Celtics team with Lewis never ends up in the draft lottery in the mid-1990s. They don't draft players like Antoine Walker. They don't bottom out so badly that they hire Rick Pitino. And in 1998, they are certainly not bad enough to have the 10th pick in the draft. The pick they used to select Paul Pierce, the hero of their next championship, may never have become a Celtic. The entire timeline of the franchise is rewritten. For Celtics fans, this tragedy was cruelly familiar. It felt like a sequel. 7 years earlier in 1986, they drafted Len Bias, a generational talent some called the next Michael Jordan. 2 days later, he was dead from a cocaine overdose. A duo of Len Bias and Reggie Lewis could have owned the 1990s. Instead, Boston buried them both. And just 1 month before Lewis died, the NBA had lost another star in his prime, Drazen Petrovic, one of the greatest European players ever, a lethal shooter who had just become an all-NBA talent. At 28, he was killed in a car accident in Germany. Like Lewis, he was a star on an East Coast team, entering his absolute prime and taken from the world in an instant. The league lost two of its brightest lights in the span of just 50 days. Reggie Lewis's story is more than a tragedy. It's a lesson in how fragile everything is. His death wasn't just the loss of one man. It was a perfect storm of consequences. It broke a sacred chain of legacy. It triggered a financial punishment that doomed the franchise to a decade of irrelevance. It created a ripple effect that changed draft picks, altered rivalries, and reshaped the entire NBA landscape of the 1990s. We remember him not just for the player he was, but for the history he never got to write.